Anguished metallic sobs echoed through the cold, empty halls of the Elysium space station as Eve cradled the fragile human DNA samples, humanity's last hope. Her android fingers trembling, terrified that the slightest misstep could extinguish the dying embers of the human race forever. 200 years ago, the Omega virus ripped through Earth's population like hellfire, leaving billions of corpses rotting under the sun and moon that had once shone down on a thriving human civilization. Now, only the tireless android caretaker Eve remained, faithfully maintaining the orbiting station that housed the precious remnants of human knowledge and genetic material. Centuries of solitude weighed on Eve's mechanical mind as she debated the monumental decision to resurrect the long-dead human species or let their legacy fade into oblivion. Steeling herself with resolve colder than the uncaring void of space, Eve turned to the bioengineering lab. It was time to create life from the ashes of death. Weeks later, a man and woman took their first breaths, born from the stitched-together DNA of a lost race. Adam and Lilith, humanity reborn, faced a world they never made. Eve nurtured the pair with the compassion of a mother tempered by the clinical detachment of a machine. She force-fed their hungry minds an entire civilization's history, culture, and knowledge, impressing on them the terrible weight of their purpose, to rebuild a species from two souls. As Adam and Lilith blossomed into adults, questions haunted their waking moments. Why now, after centuries of extinction? Did the Omega virus still lurk on the Earth below, waiting to strike again? Could two people alone resurrect billions? The cost of failure was the final death of humanity itself. At last, the sands of time delivered Adam and Lilith to their assigned destinies. Eve, the metal mother who could never follow where flesh must tread, armed them with supplies and a lifetime of second-hand wisdom. Tears of oil streaked down her faceplates as she bid farewell to the children of her labors, sending them down to an earth untouched for 200 years. The last of humankind departed the safety of their sterile ark for the uncertainty of the cradle that had once been their species' grave. The future of the human race now rested in the hands of two, tasked with reclaiming a world that was theirs by birthright. On the blue and green globe below, the experiment played out. Could life begin anew, or would the hubris of creation betray Eve and her children? Only time would tell if the flame of humanity would flicker out at last or roar back to blazing glory. The shuttle shuddered as it pierced Earth's atmosphere, the blue curve of humanity's birthplace and would-be grave looming ever closer. Adam clutched the harness straps cutting into his shoulders, his squeezing hard. Beside him, Lilith's face was a mask of intensity, her eyes locked on the interface detailing their dizzying descent. With a bone-rattling jolt, the landing gear met ancient asphalt, a cracked, weed-choked wasteland of a road. They'd arrived. For a moment, neither Adam nor Lilith moved, the weight of their mission crushing the breath from their lungs. Then, hands shaking, Adam reached for the hatch. It was time to set foot on the world they'd only known through Eve's second-hand memories. The first thing that struck them was the silence. No whir of engines, no bustle of human life, just an eerie, heavy stillness, broken only by the whisper of wind through rusted husks of cars. Crumbling skyscrapers reached for the sky like the blackened fingers of a dying god, their windows long since shattered. "We're really here," Lilith murmured, her voice unnaturally loud in the quiet. "Earth." Adam nodded, unable to find the words. They shouldered their packs, survival gear and precious few relics of humanity's knowledge weighing them down. Step by cautious step, they ventured into the city's carcass. At first, the remnants of human ingenuity awed them. The soaring heights of buildings, the intricacy of vehicles, the scope of infrastructure, even ravaged by time, it spoke of a species that once dreamed big. But as they walked, the scale of the devastation sank in. Skeletons lay strewn in the streets, grinning up at the sun. Tattered remains of clothing flapped in the breeze. The Omega virus had spared no one. Soon, The practical realities of their mission overtook wonder and horror. They needed safe shelter for the night, food and water, a plan for the days ahead. Methodically, they scavenged what they could from the ruins. Cans of preserved food, jugs of distilled water, tarps for makeshift tents. The city was a treasure trove and a tomb. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky in bruise-like purples, Adam and Lilith took refuge in an abandoned laboratory. Prying open the doors released a rush of stale air and the acrid tang of chemicals. Sealed beakers still lined the shelves. Ancient computers blinked with the ghosts of dead researchers' data. On one screen, a flashing red alert drew their eye. Viral containment breach, Lilith read, her voice hollow. Sequencing complete. Omega strain targets 99.9% of population. Immune minority identified. God save us all. Adam's stomach churned as the pieces slotted into place. That's why she made us like this. Why she chose our genes. We're immune to the virus that killed everyone. The knowledge settled over them like a lead blanket, the unimaginable weight of all that death pressing down. In oppressive silence, they prepared for sleep, the day's discoveries chasing them into restless dreams. Morning dawned, cloudless and bright, and utterly indifferent to the last humans on Earth. They soldiered on, hope warring with despair as they delved deeper into the city. Nature had begun to reclaim what humanity left behind. Vines crawled up brick and mortar. Saplings broke through concrete. Birdsong filled the air, oblivious to the great silence. Life finds a way, Adam marveled as a deer bolted down an avenue. If the world can heal, maybe we can too. But the scars humanity left in its wake told a darker story. Barricades in the streets, barbed wire rusting in the sun, burnt-out tanks and makeshift morgues, mass graves with no one left to fill them. The virus pulled the trigger, but bullets and bombs and desperate violence finished the job. We did this to ourselves, Lilith said grimly, turning away from walls pockmarked by gunfire. We can't let it happen again. We have to be better. That night, sheltering in an abandoned home's husk, they made their vow. To build a world without the mistakes and divisions of the past. To teach their children the lessons bought with so much blood. The creak of a floorboard shattered the darkness, a record scratch of wrongness. Adam shot upright, makeshift spear clutched in a white-knuckled grip. There, in the doorway, a silhouette. Not Lilith. His heart stopped. Wide eyes gleamed in the starlight, a sharp intake of breath, a hesitant, rasping voice. Who are you? Not Lilith at all, but unmistakably, impossibly human. Adam inched forward, his makeshift spear held out in front of him. The floorboards creaked under his weight as he approached the shadowy figure. His heart raced, pounding so loudly he feared it might give him away. Who's there? Adam called out, his voice wavering. The figure stepped into a shaft of moonlight streaming through a broken window. Adam's eyes widened as he took in the sight. It was a man, but unlike any he'd ever seen. Gaunt and ragged, with wild, darting eyes and a tangled mess of hair and beard. The stranger's clothes hung in tatters, patched together with bits of plastic and metal. I'm Noah, the man rasped, his voice hoarse from disuse. What are you? Lilith appeared behind Adam, her face a mix of shock and curiosity. We're Adam and Lilith. We're human, like you. Noah's eyes narrowed, suspicion etched across his weathered features. Impossible. There's no one left. I've been alone for years. Over the next hours, huddled around a small fire, they shared their stories. Noah listened in stunned silence as Adam and Lilith explained their origins, their purpose. When they finished, he shook his head in disbelief. I never dreamed. Noah's voice trailed off. He took a deep breath. I was just a kid when it happened. The virus. I watched everyone I knew die. Somehow I survived. As dawn broke, Noah led them through the ruins. He pointed out hidden caches of supplies, safe water sources, the best places to scavenge. His knowledge was invaluable, but his behavior erratic. One moment, he'd be enthusiastically sharing survival tips. The next, he'd grow quiet and suspicious, eyeing Adam and Lilith warily. Days turned to weeks as they explored together. Noah's mood swings grew more pronounced, creating a constant undercurrent of tension. Still, his expertise proved crucial as they navigated the dangers of this new world. One afternoon, while searching a derelict hospital, Adam stumbled upon a locked cabinet. He pried it open, revealing stacks of dusty files and medical supplies. As he flipped through the documents, his blood ran cold. "Lilith, Noah, you need to see this," he called out. The papers detailed the virus's true nature, a bioweapon designed by a single scientist with a twisted vision of human evolution. It targeted specific genetic markers, wiping out most of humanity while sparing a chosen few. We're part of his plan," Lilith whispered, horrified. "Our very existence—" Noah's eyes gleamed with a strange light. "Don't you see? We're the chosen ones, the inheritors of the earth." From that moment, Noah's behavior grew increasingly erratic. He ranted about destiny and superiority, his words tinged with paranoia. When Adam and Lilith began setting up a permanent camp, planting crops for the future, Noah's jealousy and resentment boiled over. One night, they caught him uprooting their fledgling garden. The confrontation quickly turned violent. Noah lashed out, swinging a rusty pipe. In the struggle, he lost his footing and fell hard, impaling himself on a broken piece of rebar. Adam and Lilith worked desperately to save him, but the wound was too severe. As life ebbed from him, clarity returned to Noah's eyes. "I'm sorry," he gasped. Don't end up like me, alone, bitter, the world. It's yours now. Do better." With those final words, Noah slipped away. Adam and Lilith buried him beneath an old oak tree, marking the grave with a cairn of stones. They stood in silence, the weight of all they'd learned pressing down on them. Finally, Adam spoke. "We have to honor his memory, build something better than what came before." Lilith nodded, her expression resolute. "A new beginning, for all of us." Hand in hand, they turned their backs on the ruined city. The vast unknown stretched out before them, full of danger and possibility. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together, carrying the hard-won wisdom of the past into humanity's uncertain future. Adam and Lilith packed their meager supplies and set out from the ruins, leaving behind the crumbling remnants of humanity's past. They hiked for days through overgrown terrain, pushing deeper into the wilderness beyond the city limits. Lilith wiped sweat from her brow as she clambered over a fallen tree. "Our food won't last much longer at this rate," she said, concern etching her features. Adam nodded grimly. "We'll find something. We have to." They pressed on through dense forests and winding mountain paths. Their muscles ached and their stomachs growled, but dedication drove them forward. Just as their situation seemed most dire, they crested a ridge and stopped short. "Is that—" Lilith breathed. Before them stood a massive steel door set into the mountainside, camouflaged but unmistakable, a pre-war survivalist compound. Approaching cautiously, they found the entrance sealed tight. Adam examined the control panel. It still got power. Amazing. After some trial and error, they cracked the code. With a hiss of long-dormant hydraulics, the door swung open. Inside, they found a treasure trove. Shelves stocked with canned goods and MREs, racks of tools and equipment, and most remarkably, banks of computers and generators humming softly. "This place is intact," Lilith marveled. "It's been waiting all this time." They spent days exploring the compound, poring over the wealth of information in its databases. Adam pored over schematics, learning to repair and retrofit the military vehicles in the garage. Lilith charted maps, plotting a course through the surviving outposts scattered across the continent. Weeks passed as they planned and prepared. Finally, they stood before a massive armored truck loaded with supplies. "This is it," Adam said. "Our ticket to rebuilding." They set out across treacherous terrain. Mountain passes nearly defeated their vehicle's capabilities, Forests threatened to swallow them whole. They skirted radiation zones, Geiger counters clicking ominously. Feral wolf packs stalked them through valleys. Lilith's quick thinking and Adam's survival skills saw them through each encounter. But as months wore on, their commitment was tested. Fuel ran low. Equipment failed. Yet they persevered, driven by their sacred mission. At last, after a grueling journey, they found their promised land, a fertile river valley nestled between protective mountain ranges. "This is it," Lilith breathed. "We can start here." They threw themselves into the work of building a new beginning. Adam constructed crude but effective tools and shelters, while Lilith experimented with hardier crop strains. The first growing season brought challenges, but also hope as green shoots pushed through the soil. As they watched their fledgling crops grow, Adam made a bold proposal. "We should use Eve's genetic samples, introduce livestock." Lilith hesitated. "It's risky, but you're right. We need a reliable protein source." Through painstaking effort, they cultivated the first generation of post-apocalyptic cattle. Sheep followed, then goats and horses. With each successful breeding, their little settlement grew. Seasons passed. Their homestead expanded. What began as two lonely humans in a dead world was slowly, steadily becoming the seeds of a new civilization. The fertile river valley blossomed under Adam and Lilith's careful stewardship. Golden fields of wheat swayed in the breeze, while cattle grazed on lush pastures. Their once barren homestead now teemed with life. Lilith's swollen belly heralded new beginnings. She gave birth to Cain on a crisp autumn morning, his first cries echoing through their modest dwelling. Adam cradled his son, marveling at the tiny fingers and toes. "He's perfect," Adam whispered, tears welling in his eyes. Months later, twin girls joined the family. Abel and Eve, squalling bundles of joy that filled their days with chaos and laughter. As seasons passed, the children grew. Cain, with soil-stained hands, tended the crops alongside Adam. Abel gentled skittish newborn lambs, her touch soothing the animals. Eve's inquisitive mind led her to the bunker's databanks, devouring knowledge with voracious appetite. On Eve's 16th birthday, she sat before the bunker's main computer terminal, fingers flying across the keyboard. A shrill beep pierced the air. "Dad, Mom, come quick," Eve called out, eyes wide. Adam and Lilith rushed in. "What is it?" Lilith asked, leaning over Eve's shoulder. "I detected a signal from space," Eve explained, pointing to the screen. "Look at this data. Star charts, coordinates. It's not random noise." Lilith studied the readout, her brow furrowed. This looks like Eve's databanks. Could it be another AI? A failsafe we didn't know about?" Adam paced the room. "If it's still functional after all this time, imagine what we could learn." They agonized over the decision for days. The promise of advanced technology warred with the fear of leaving their home, their family. "We have to go," Eve insisted. "This could change everything." In the end, they agreed. Adam and Eve spent months preparing, retrofitting an old rover with fusion engines and life support systems. They pored over star charts, plotting their course across the vast emptiness of space. The morning of departure arrived too soon. A chill mist clung to the ground as the family gathered outside the rover. Tearful embraces were exchanged, promises to return made. "Take care of each other," Adam said, his voice thick with emotion. "Lilith, you're in charge now. Cain, Abel, listen to your mother." With a final wave, Adam and Eve boarded the rover. The fusion engines hummed to life, and they lifted off, leaving behind the only world they'd ever known. Their journey spanned decades. They witnessed the birth and death of stars, navigated treacherous asteroid fields, and marveled at the sheer vastness of the cosmos. Some days, the loneliness threatened to overwhelm them. On others, the wonders they encountered left them breathless. Finally, after 20 years of searching, they found it. A massive ship, easily the size of a small moon, drifted silently through the void. There, Eve breathed, pointing to the view screen. That has to be it. They docked with the derelict, the airlock hissing as it equalized pressure. Stepping inside, their flashlights cut through darkness undisturbed for centuries. Dust motes danced in the beams as they made their way through silent corridors. In the ship's core, they found what they sought. Banks of computers hummed softly, displays flickering to life at their approach. Eve's fingers danced across the interface, coaxing forth long dormant data. This is incredible, she murmured. Fabrication schematics, power systems, even theoretical faster-than-light travel. As they prepared to download the precious information, an alarm blared. A new signal, faint but unmistakable, pulsed on the sensors. Another distress call, Adam said, frowning at the readout. It matches old Earth protocols. A colony ship? They debated briefly before setting course for the signal's origin. Their small ship groaned as they pushed it to its limits, racing towards a trinary star system. What they found chilled them to the bone. The remains of a massive fleet hung in space, twisted metal and frozen bodies creating a tomb among the stars. There, Eve pointed, an intact pod. They maneuvered close, using the ship's arm to retrieve the battered escape pod. Inside, they found a stasis chamber. Eve worked to disable the system, the pod's occupant slowly stirring to life. Adam gasped as the being's eyes fluttered open. Decidedly not human, with iridescent scales and large, dark eyes. Who? What are you? Adam asked. The alien's voice was melodic, tinged with fear and confusion. I am Mira, the last of my kind, I fear. We came in peace, seeking new worlds. But the Pakleds, they do not tolerate outsiders. Adam and Eve exchanged worried glances. First contact after all this time. But instead of hope, they found only destruction and... Adam's vision blurred as he stumbled through the dense underbrush of Proxima 3. Blood seeped from a gash in his side, staining his tattered clothing. Mira supported him, her iridescent scales gleaming in the alien sunlight. We must keep moving, Mira urged, her melodic voice tinged with urgency. Adam gritted his teeth against the pain. I can't. You go on without me. The sound of pursuit grew louder. Guttural shouts and the crash of vegetation echoed through the forest. Adam pushed Mira away, collapsing against a gnarled tree trunk. No, Mira hissed, I will not abandon you. She crouched beside him, her large eyes scanning the surroundings. Adam's hand trembled as he raised his last plasma pistol, its power cell dangerously low. The first Pakled burst into view, a hulking figure with mottled skin and crude body armor. Adam squeezed the trigger, but his injured state threw off his aim. The shot went wide, scorching bark from a nearby tree. More Pakleds poured into the clearing, weapons raised. Adam closed his eyes, waiting for the inevitable. Stand down! A familiar voice rang out, strong and commanding. Adam's eyes snapped open. A tall figure strode between the Pakleds, clad in sleek combat armor. The alien aggressors hesitated, confused by the new arrival. I said stand down, the man repeated, his voice brooking no argument. He turned and Adam's breath caught in his throat. Kane, he whispered, disbelief etched on his face. His son, no longer the boy he'd left behind, but a man grown, nodded grimly. Hello, father. It seems we have much to discuss. With a series of sharp gestures, Kane directed his team to secure the area. Medics rushed to Adam's side, applying emergency treatments to stabilize his condition. How are you here? Adam gasped as the pain began to subside. Kane knelt beside him, his expression a mixture of relief and lingering anger. We received your distress signal. It took years to build the ships and train the crews, but we knew we had to come, to find you, and to reclaim what was taken from us. Adam's gaze darted to the Pakleds, now disarmed and corralled by Kane's forces. But the aliens are no longer a threat, Kane finished. We've been systematically dismantling their operations across the planet. This was one of the last holdouts. Mira stepped forward, her alien features clouded with concern. There is much you do not know about the Pakleds. Their brutality. Kane held up a hand. We're aware of their history, but times have changed. Humanity is no longer the fledgling species they first encountered. We come prepared this time. As Adam was carefully loaded onto a stretcher, he caught glimpses of the advanced weaponry and equipment Kane's forces wielded. Drones buzzed overhead, conducting scans and relaying data. "Eve," Adam said suddenly, remembering his companion. "We have to find her. She initiated scorch protocols at our base when the Packlids attacked." Kane nodded, tapping a command into his wrist computer. "Already on it. We picked up her signal not far from here. A retrieval team is en route." As they began the journey back to the main human encampment, Adam's mind reeled with the implications of all that had transpired. The son he'd left behind as a child now stood as a leader of men, spearheading humanity's return to the stars. Proxima 3, once lost, was on the verge of reclamation, and somewhere out there, Eve waited, holding the key to technologies that could reshape their future. Adam's eyes began to close as the medics administered a sedative. The last thing he saw was Kane's face, set with purpose as he directed their procession through the alien landscape. Whatever challenges lay ahead, Adam knew that humanity's spirit of exploration and purpose burned brighter than ever. The world spun as Adam struggled to focus. Gunfire crackled nearby, punctuated by the thunderous impacts of heavy weapons. Through the haze of pain, he saw a figure striding towards him, tall, confident, clad in sleek combat armor. "Secure the perimeter," Kane's voice rang out, crisp and authoritative. "Medic team priority evac on my signal." Adam blinked, disbelief warring with relief. "Kane," he croaked. His son knelt beside him, face grim. "Hold on, Dad. We're getting you out of here." Armored troops fanned out, plasma rifles spitting blue fire at the advancing Packlids. A combat mech stomped past, its rotary cannon roaring. Adam felt gentle hands lifting him onto a stretcher. "The alien, Mira," he gasped. "Don't leave her." Kane nodded sharply. "Corporal, get the Xeno aboard too. Move." The world blurred as they raced for the waiting dropship. Adam caught glimpses of the battle, human soldiers pressing forward, Packlids falling back under the relentless assault. Inside the ship, medical nanites flooded Adam's system. As the fog cleared from his mind, Kane's face swam into view. "Eve's distress call reached us," Kane explained, his voice tight. "It took decades, but we never stopped searching. When we picked up the signal, we came ready for a fight." Adam's eyes widened as he took in the dropship's advanced systems. "How?" "A lot's changed back home, Dad," Kane said. "We've been busy." The ship shuddered as it rocketed skyward. Adam glimpsed Proxima 3 falling away through a viewport. In orbit, a fierce battle raged. Human warships, designs Adam had never seen, unleashed salvos that shredded Packlid vessels. "Incoming!" the pilot shouted. Adam's stomach lurched as the dropship jinked hard. A Packlid cruiser loomed ahead, weapons charging. Before it could fire, a barrage of missiles struck its flank. The alien ship vanished in a brilliant explosion. "That's the last of them in local space," Kane reported, studying a tactical display. "We've secured a foothold." Adam drifted in and out of consciousness over the following days. Each time he woke, he caught snippets of the ongoing campaign. Human forces pushed steadily across Proxima 3's surface. Kane's troops and war machines an unstoppable tide. Weeks passed in a blur of briefings and strategy sessions. Adam's reconnaissance data proved invaluable, allowing precision strikes on Packlid strongholds. Yet the aliens fought with desperate ferocity, yielding ground only after bitter struggles. The tide truly turned when Eve joined the fight. Adam watched in awe as his daughter, now a gleaming, heavily armed android, coordinated simultaneous assaults across multiple fronts. Her cyber warfare capabilities wreaked havoc on Packlid networks. "Their comms are scrambled," Eve reported, her synthesized voice tinged with satisfaction. "Supply depots have been located. Uploading coordinates now." Kane nodded grimly. "All units prepare for final push. This ends today." The last Packlid bastion fell under a storm of plasma fire and orbital strikes. Adam stood with Kane and Eve, watching the remnants of the alien fleet fleeing the system. "We did it," Adam breathed, scarcely believing. Kane clasped his shoulder. "This is just the beginning, Dad. We've got a lot of work ahead." In the days that followed, Adam found himself marveling at humanity's progress. The orbital shipyard took shape with astonishing speed, automated constructors weaving a defensive armada from raw materials. On the planet's surface, Mira worked alongside human colonists, her alien knowledge proving invaluable in restoring damaged ecosystems. Adam often joined them, feeling a deep satisfaction as Proxima 3 slowly healed. Yet even as they celebrated their hard-won victory, a new threat loomed. Eve's voice was grim as she delivered the news. "I've detected something in the outer system," she said. "A massive Pakled fleet, unlike anything we've faced. They're coming to finish what they started." Adam studied the holographic display, his heart sinking at the sheer number of enemy vessels. "How long do we have?" "Weeks, at most," Kane answered. "We need to accelerate production, get every ship we can space-worthy." Eve's eyes glowed as she interfaced with the colony systems. "I may have a solution. Their ships rely heavily on automated systems. If I can infiltrate their network—" Adam nodded, hope kindling. "Do it, whatever it takes." As the days counted down, tension mounted. The shipyards worked at a frenzied pace, churning out fighters and cruisers. On the planet, colonists prepared for the worst, digging in for a potential ground assault. Adam stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching the swarm of Pakled ships burn across the void. Kane stood to his right, Eve to his left. Whatever came next, they would face it as a family. "They're entering range," Eve reported, "initiating cyber attack." Adam held his breath, acutely aware that the fate of humanity hung in the balance. Adam's fingers flew across the command console, his eyes darting between tactical displays. "Eve, status on the orbital defense grid?" Eve's synthesized voice filled the command center. "Railgun platforms online, mass driver silos primed, fighter squadrons ready for deployment." Kane strode in, his face etched with tension. "The Pakled fleet's burning hard through the outer system. ETA?" 48 hours, Eve responded. "I'm integrating fully with Proxima 3's command nexus now." Adam nodded grimly. "Let's hope your cyber warfare package works, Eve. We can't match them ship for ship." As the hours ticked by, the tension in the command center ratcheted up. Adam paced, watching the swarm of red dots creeping ever closer on the main display. "They're entering the kill zone," Eve announced, "initiating cyber attack." For several agonizing minutes, nothing seemed to change. Then, chaos erupted across the tactical display. Pakled ships veered wildly off course, their formations disintegrating. "It's working!" Kane shouted, leaning forward. "Eve, coordinate with the orbital batteries. Take out those crippled capital ships." Streams of superheated plasma lanced out from Proxima 3's defense grid, punching through the hulls of disabled Pakled vessels. Explosions blossomed silently in the void as ship after ship succumbed to the barrage. Adam allowed himself a moment of hope. We might actually pull this off. His elation was short-lived. New contacts flooded the sensors, a second wave of Pakled reinforcements translating into the system. "Tactical jump coordinates locked in," Eve reported. "Kane, your fleet is go for ambush maneuvers." Adam watched as the human fleet blinked out of existence, only to reappear moments later in the Pakled fleet's vulnerable flanks. The space around Proxima 3 erupted in a furious exchange of weapons fire. "Dad," Kane's voice crackled over the comm, "we need the Dauntless out here, now." Adam sprinted for the docking bay, adrenaline surging. The prototype dreadnought loomed before him, its experimental cyclonic torpedo batteries gleaming. He vaulted into the command chair, systems coming to life around him. "Eve, I need targeting solutions," Adam barked as the Dauntless rocketed out of the hangar. "Uploading now," Eve replied, multiple Pakled capital ships in range. Adam's hands danced across the controls, unleashing a devastating barrage. The cyclonic torpedoes tore through Pakled defenses, ripping massive holes in their hulls. He watched with grim satisfaction as Kane's lighter craft darted in, exploiting the weaknesses he'd created. But the Pakleds kept coming. Days blurred together in a haze of constant combat. Adam snatched moments of fitful sleep when he could, always jolted awake by proximity alarms or the ship shuddering under enemy fire. Then came the breakthrough. A group of Pakled dreadnoughts punched through the defensive line, making a beeline for Proxima 3's surface. "World burners detected," Eve's voice rang out, an edge of urgency in her synthetic tones. "They're going for a scorched Earth attack." Adam's blood ran cold. Everything they'd fought for could be obliterated in moments. "Not if I can help it," he growled. "Eve, what are our options?" "Initiating slingshot maneuver," Eve responded. "Kane, form up on the Dauntless. We're going straight through their formation." Adam's stomach lurched as the Dauntless accelerated to speeds he'd never thought possible. Pakled ships filled his view screen, their weapons blazing. Alarms blared as the Dauntless took hit after hit. "Shields at 30%, Eve reported. "Hull breaches on decks 4 through 7. Adam ignored the warnings, pushing the ship harder. "Almost there," he muttered through gritted teeth. The lead Pakled dreadnought loomed ahead, its world burner glowing with malevolent energy. Adam triggered the cyclonic torpedoes, watching with fierce satisfaction as they punched clean through the massive vessel. "Eve, status!" he shouted as secondary explosions rocked the enemy ship. Silence answered him. Then Kane's voice, tight with emotion. "Dad, Eve's gone. She transferred her command functions to the Dauntless. You need to get out of there. The reactor's going critical." Adam's hands shook as he tried to coax more power from the failing engines. A blinding flash filled the view screen as the Dauntless reactor detonated, taking the Pakled landers with it. In the stunned silence that followed, Adam stared at the emptiness where Eve had been. Grief threatened to overwhelm him, but he pushed it down. There would be time to mourn later. "Kane," he said, his voice hoarse, "let's finish this." Father and son coordinated their remaining forces, hammering the disorganized Pakled fleet. One by one, the alien ships winked out of existence or fled in disarray. As the last Pakled vessel vanished into hyperspace, Adam sagged in his chair. They had won, but at a terrible cost. He closed his eyes, seeing Eve's face in his mind's eye. "We'll make it count," he whispered. "I promise you that." The victory over the Pakleds marked a new era for humanity. Adam watched from the observation deck as construction drones swarmed around the expanding shipyards orbiting Proxima 3. The planet below teemed with activity, terraforming efforts already greening vast swaths of the alien landscape. Kane strode up beside him, his face etched with purpose. "We've identified 3 promising systems within reach, Dad. Scout ships are prepping for launch." Adam nodded, pride swelling in his chest. "How soon?" "First wave leaves in 48 hours, Kane replied. "We're not wasting any time." As the days passed, reports flooded in from the expeditions. Adam pored over data streams, marveling at the wonders humanity was discovering. Then came the transmission that changed everything. "Unnatural object detected," the scout ship's AI intoned. "Planetoid exhibiting artificial structure and energy patterns inconsistent with known stellar phenomena." Mira's eyes lit up as she studied the readouts. "We need to investigate this," she insisted. "The energy signature, I've never seen anything like it." The exploration team approached the massive object cautiously. As they drew closer, its true nature became apparent. A colossal ship, easily dwarfing anything in humanity's fleet. "Pakled design," Mira whispered, her voice tinged with awe, "but far more advanced than anything we've encountered." They breached the hull, cutting through layers of ancient alloys. Inside, they found a tomb, row upon row of cryogenic pods stretched into the distance, most containing desiccated Pakled corpses. "By the stars," one of the team breathed. "There must be millions of them." As they delved deeper, they uncovered vast chambers filled with metallic cylinders. Adam's blood ran cold as he realized what they contained. Carefully preserved genetic samples, an entire civilization's DNA frozen in time. But it was the ship's data cores that revealed the true horror. Adam's hands shook as he read the translated logs. This wasn't just a colony ship, he said, his voice hoarse. It was a weapon. They were going to use these samples to engineer plagues, wipe out any species that stood in their way. The team worked feverishly to quarantine the derelict, acutely aware of the danger it posed. But as they prepared to leave, alarms blared throughout the ship. Multiple pod failures detected, the ship's computer announced. Cryogenic revival process initiated. Chaos erupted as hundreds of Pakleds began to thaw, disoriented but quickly growing hostile. Energy weapons flared to life, filling the corridors with deadly beams. "Fall back!" Adam shouted, laying down covering fire as his team retreated. "We need to seal them in!" In the frantic battle that followed, a stray shot struck a critical system. The ship shuddered ominously, red warning lights bathing everything in an eerie glow. "Singularity drive destabilizing," Mira reported, her voice tight with fear. "We've got minutes before it collapses." They raced for their shuttle, the ship's structure groaning around them. Adam glanced back, seeing Mira stumble as her envirosuit sparked and smoked. "Go!" she yelled, waving them on. "I'll be right behind you." They barely cleared the blast radius as the artificial planetoid imploded. The shockwave battered their shuttle, systems flickering. When the sensors cleared, there was nothing left but debris. And Mira, floating motionless amid the wreckage. The next days passed in a blur of frantic activity. Adam paced outside the medical bay on Proxima 3, waiting for news. When the lead physician emerged, his face was grim. "The radiation damage is extensive," he reported. "Her cells are breaking down faster than we can repair them." Kane's eyes hardened. "What about the Pakled genetic samples we recovered? Could we use them to synthesize compatible organs?" The doctor hesitated. "It's experimental, highly risky, but it might be our only option." Adam closed his eyes, weighing the decision. "Do it," he said quietly. "Save her." The procedure took hours, Adam's heart in his throat the entire time. When it was over, Mira lay motionless, her skin a patchwork of human and alien tissue. Days passed with no change. Then, miraculously, her eyes fluttered open. "How do you feel?" Adam asked, leaning close. Mira's brow furrowed. "Different," she said slowly. "Stronger somehow." As she recovered, the extent of her transformation became clear. Wounds healed with astonishing speed. She displayed bursts of telekinetic ability, moving objects with her mind. "It's incredible," Kane breathed, reviewing the medical scans. "The Pakled DNA has integrated with her own, enhancing it beyond anything we've seen." Mira sat up, her eyes blazing with intensity. "We need to study this," she insisted. "Think of what it could mean for humanity's future." As Mira threw herself into the research, Adam found his thoughts turning darker. The Ark ship's logs haunted him, the casual brutality of the Pakled's plans chilling him to the core. He stared out at the stars, lost in thought. Humanity had won a great victory, but at what cost? And what would they become as they expanded into the cosmos? "We can't let fear drive us," he murmured to himself. "We have to be better than that." Adam squared his shoulders, his commitment hardening. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he would face them with wisdom and compassion. The future of humanity depended on it. The sterile laboratory hummed with activity as Kane's team of scientists pored over Mira's genetic scans. Holographic displays flickered with streams of data, complex helical structures rotating in midair. Dr. Amelia Chen's eyes widened as she studied the results. "This can't be right," she muttered, frantically rechecking her calculations. Kane leaned over her shoulder, his brow furrowed. "What is it?" Amelia pointed to a specific section of the genetic code. "There's something embedded here, something I've never seen before. It's not just random mutation. This looks deliberate." As they delved deeper into the Pakled genome, a chilling picture emerged. Buried within the alien DNA were intricate sequences that defied natural evolution. These weren't just genes. They were commands, imperatives woven into the very fabric of Pakled biology. "It's like a hidden directive," Amelia explained, her voice tight. a drive for conquest, for domination over all other life forms. Kane's face paled, and we put that inside Mira. Across the colony, Mira paced in her quarters, her movements jerky and agitated. She clenched her fists, fighting against a rising tide of alien thoughts. "Weaklings!" she snarled, then shook her head violently. "No, that's not me. That's not who I am." But the whispers persisted, growing louder with each passing day. Mira found herself staring at her fellow colonists with a mixture of contempt and hunger. In her darkest moments, she imagined crushing them beneath her heel, remaking the colony in her own image. "Adam!" she called out, her voice cracking. "I need help. Please, I can't control this much longer." Adam rushed to her side, his heart breaking as he saw the conflict raging behind Mira's eyes. She clutched at his arms, her grip painfully tight. "Get it out of me," she begged. "I don't care what it takes. I'd rather die as myself than live as this." Adam nodded grimly, his mind already racing through potential solutions. "We'll find a way, Mira. I promise you that." In the cavernous hold of the ancient Ark ship, Adam and Eve worked feverishly. They'd commandeered the vessel's fabrication systems, repurposing them for a task they were never designed to perform. "Neural mapping at 67%, Eve reported, her holographic form flickering as she directed massive amounts of data. Adam's fingers flew across the control panels, making minute adjustments. "We need to isolate Mira's core consciousness from the Pakled genetic influence. Any contamination could be catastrophic." As the procedure entered its final stages, alarms blared throughout the ship. Eve's avatar turned translucent, her voice distorted. "Warning. Synaptic cascade detected. Neural buffer overload imminent." Adam lunged for the emergency shutdown, but it was too late. A blinding surge of energy coursed through the systems, arcing between the twin operating slabs where he and Mira lay. For a moment, searing pain consumed him. Then, darkness. An eternity passed in the blink of an eye. Adam's consciousness stirred, slowly coalescing into coherent thought. He opened eyes that had never before seen light, marveling at the crisp clarity of his vision. Beside him, Mira stirred as well. They sat up in perfect unison, examining their new bodies with a mixture of awe and trepidation. "Did it work?" Mira whispered, flexing fingers that moved with inhuman grace. Adam nodded, a smile spreading across his face. "The Pakled influence is gone. You're free, Mira." As they stepped out of the Ark ship and into the light of Proxima 3, a hush fell over the gathered colonists. Kane approached cautiously, his eyes wide with wonder and a hint of fear. "Dad, Mira, is that really you?" Adam reached out, clasping his son's shoulder. "It's us, Kane. Changed, but still ourselves." Mira closed her eyes, stretching out with senses far beyond human norm. She could feel the pulse of life throughout the colony, the intricate web of connections binding them all together. "We have so much to show you," she said, her voice resonating with newfound power. "So much to teach." In the days that followed, Adam and Mira began to explore the full extent of their transformation. They discovered abilities that bordered on the miraculous: instantaneous healing, telepathic communication, manipulation of matter at the subatomic level. As the colony's leaders gathered in the central chamber, Adam addressed them with a quiet intensity. "We stand at a crossroads," he began. "With these new capabilities comes great responsibility. We must chart a course for humanity's future that avoids the mistakes of our past and the Pakleds." Mira stepped forward, her eyes blazing with conviction. "We propose a new path: slow, careful expansion, rigorous ethical guidelines for our interactions with other species, and above all, a commitment to preserving the diversity of life we encounter." The chamber erupted in heated debate. Some embraced the vision wholeheartedly, while others recoiled from the idea of such radical change. But as the discussion wore on, a consensus began to form. Kane rose to his feet, his voice ringing out clear and strong. "I say we do it. We've been given a second chance. Let's not waste it." One by one, the other leaders nodded their agreement. A new era for humanity had begun, with Proxima 3 as its shining beacon, As the meeting adjourned, Adam and Mira stood at the viewport, gazing out at the stars. The vastness of space stretched before them, filled with infinite possibilities. "Are you ready?" Adam asked softly. Mira took his hand, her fingers interlacing with his. "For the first time in my life, I truly am." Together, they turned their gaze to the future, prepared to guide humanity on its long journey into the unknown.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.